Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
Who is a provincial superior, and what does that mean for those who work for, learn at, and support St. Joseph's Indian School? Hello, Mitakiepi, and welcome to Hochoka, here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School's campus. I'm Scott Wooster, today's Hochoka host. We are talking with Father Vien. He is the 16th Provincial Superior of the United States Province of the Priests of the Sacred Heart. Father Vien is visiting our campus this week for meetings, and we are incredibly grateful that he is joining us today to tape a couple of podcasts for all of us. Father Vien, a warm Hochoka welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you. So we're going to get to know you a little bit today. We're going to play a game of what we call rapid fire.
Sounds great.
Okay, so quick answers to quick questions, or just prompts, these will be.
Yes.
So, the best food?
Italian cuisine.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Best music?
Tango.
Wow, okay. When I was younger, I...
Was a refugee.
Okay.
Yes.
Failure is?
Success. The mother of success.
Oh, well.
Or Churchill would say, not fatal.
Okay, yes. I like that too. And success is?
It's not final.
Okay.
Churchill also said that.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Secret indulgence for you?
I like to watch TikTok videos.
Okay.
Because people are quite creative with their contents.
Yes. It's entertaining.
Yes, yeah.
Best advice you ever received?
Be generous.
Nice.
Yes.
And the best advice you ever gave?
Be yourself.
Okay. Favorite Old Testament prophet?
Amos.
Okay. Favorite book of the Bible?
I would say Acts of the Apostles.
Okay. If you could be any place, it would be?
Somewhere in the Pacific, near the water.
Okay.
Yes.
And being at St. Joe's is?
It's like a retreat, homecoming.
Nice.
Yes.
Very nice. I like your answers to those. Had you thought about them ahead of time?
Well, I've been thinking about some of the things that I wanted to say.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And did you have a favorite Old Testament prophet?
Amos, as I said earlier, because he's a no-nonsense prophet.
Got it.
And he was a prophet of justice. He didn't like the way people treated one another, and so he challenged them to be faithful to their commitment to God and to be a good neighbor to one another. And in one of the passages, he said, don't try to buy God. Basically, don't try to fool God by offering goods to God as a way to mask the injustice. Mm-hmm. Away with your offerings. Basically, God is saying to them through the prophet, or to the people through the prophet. And so he challenged them to live justly lives.
Nice. And he's a model for you and
for me, yes.
And a model
yes.
for all of us.
Yes. And again, he's standing up for the people, asking people to be responsible to one another.
Nice. So let's go a little bit deeper. Yes. We'd all like to hear, first of all, what your youth was like, yes. What was happening when you were a kid, and what influenced you in your younger years that may have formed the direction that you took in your life. From the little bit that I know about you, we're just meeting, but I'm sure that moving to the United States was a huge experience for you, but I'm sure there's many.
I shared this experience with the people on Easter Sunday in Mississippi, and when I was young, around 14, I left Vietnam by boat, crossing from Vietnam to the Philippines through the South China Sea on a very small boat with my aunt. My aunt was with me, and there were 39 people on that boat, including myself. And the boat wasn't that big. I think it's, if I have to estimate, it's about maybe 20, 30 feet long, and then 6, 7, 8 feet wide. Mm-hmm. And so 39 of us on that boat, and so we crossed the South China Sea. On the third, the fourth days of the journey, the weather turned for the worse. Basically, we we enter a perfect storm, basically. I mean, if you have seen the movie The Perfect Storm,
I have.
The waves got bigger and bigger, the sky turned darker and darker each day, and the wind grew stronger and stronger. And so I thought there was no way we could survive this storm. And I envisioned the ball would fall apart any moment.
Right.
And it was at night. For me, night time is the most fearful time for me because it's so dark. You cannot see anything. In the vast ocean, the South China Sea. But amid darkness, one night we saw that light from afar, just a beacon of light. But that light gave us so much hope because we knew there was life. And so slowly we inched toward that light. And it took us hours to get there. So when we got closer and closer to that light, we saw a rig, an oil rig, and next to it was a ship. And so we signaled for the crew on the ship to rescue us, and they did, graciously. Once we were all aboard the ship, that small boat that we were on sank. And so they took us, the people on the ship took us to a refugee camp in the Philippines. And there, I spent some time in prayer in the chapel. And the question, now that you survived this ordeal, what are you going to do with your life? That question kept lingering in my mind from that moment onward. And the idea of becoming a priest, becoming a missionary, become a religious came to my mind. And I thought, well, this might be one way to make my life meaningful to me and hopefully make life meaningful to other people as well.
Right.
As a way to appreciate another chance of life. And I'm glad that experience really shaped me, transformed me, and it was a defining moment for me.
Absolutely. It had to be.
Yes.
So before then, before you were 14 on this boat having this harrowing experience, there was no inkling that that's the direction your life might take?
No, not at all. Yeah. That wasn't my thought. I wanted to travel, I wanted to be here and there, but never the idea of becoming a missionary, becoming a priest, or becoming a religious with the priest of the Sacred Heart.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But that experience solidified my desire.
It was pivotal.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
Let's turn a little bit to how, so this informed your life. You knew that you wanted to do something.
Yes.
And I assume you didn't get off the boat that saved you and go, I want to be a priest of the Sacred Heart. There were some twists and turns. How do you go from being a 14-year-old kid there to finding your way to being the provincial superior in Milwaukee, or even your origins at the Priests of the Sacred Heart?
So I lived in 2 refugee camps in the Philippines for 2 years, and then I entered the United States when I was 16, finished high school, and applied to be a priest of the Sacred Heart. So I saw an ad in one of the Vietnamese magazines, Catholic magazine, and with the form, just fill out the information, my name, phone number, and so on, contact information. And so Father Tom Westhoven, who was in South Dakota,
yes, he was.
He was the first one to contact me. And I think my English thing was very broken, but he was so patient with me. The reason I chose the Priest of the Sacred Heart was that spirituality, Sacred Heart devotion. I grew up with Sacred Heart devotion, and I wanted to continue this. I wanted to develop my understanding of Sacred Heart spirituality, and so this is a perfect community to nurture that devotion, that spirituality. So I visited our places in San Antonio and Milwaukee, fell in love with the community, and began my formation in San Antonio, Texas. I like San Antonio because it's close to my family. We settled in Houston, Texas, and so San Antonio, Houston, it's about a 3-hour drive, not too far, and so that way I could visit my mom or my family whenever I could. By the way, my father died when I was 6 years old, so you don't hear me mention my father a lot in many conversations. And so I began my formation in San Antonio, continued my theological studies in Chicago, returned to Houston for ministry for some years, parish ministry, and then went back to Chicago for formation ministry. After that, I went to California for my biblical studies, and then returned to Sacred Heart Seminary and School of Theology in Milwaukee for teaching scripture there. And then I was elected provincial by my brothers in 2022. And so this is my second year, entering my second year of my ministry.
Right.
Yes.
So you're well-traveled. You've been a few different places to get your training and your education, certainly.
And also, being in this role opened my mind to different horizons, like traveling to the Congo, traveling to Indonesia. And for sure, in the future, I will go to different places. But the more I travel, the more I see the beauty of our cultures, the beauty of who we are as people of God. And each culture has its own beauty, which needs to be appreciated.
Absolutely. And where did you learn to tango? Or didn't you? Maybe you just liked to tango.
For some reason, every time I listen to tango music, it makes me feel like I want to dance.
Yeah. But do you?
Move. I haven't.
Right.
I think Father Steve has learned.
So your education, tell us about the influences in your education, what drew you to seek out your influences, and how they contributed to the person that we're talking to today.
Sure. In the Asian culture and many cultures as well, education is a key. Parents always push their children to have a better education because it's a door to success in life. And so I grew up with that mentality, and then I embraced that practice as well. And that's why I'm trying to pursue an advanced degree in biblical studies, so that way I can share my knowledge and experiences with younger generations of priests and religious, and to be able to form them in some way with a focus on justice, with the focus on respecting God's people wherever they find themselves. In biblical studies, the challenge is always to push ourselves. The challenge is always to look at different ways of looking at Scripture, because there's no one way of reading Scripture. Okay, so you can read Scripture from the post-colonial interpretation, from the Native American perspective, from the Asian perspective, from the African perspective. So that's very rich, because we bring with us our experiences, and our experiences influence how we interpret Scriptures as well. And so I always, in my teaching, I always encourage our students just to look beyond, just look at different ways of reading the Scripture, reflecting on the Scripture, so that way it enriches who we are. And also it challenges to welcome other people as well. Because my way of doing things is not the only way.
Right.
And I have to appreciate what other people bring to the table, to the discussion.
Right.
And I should not discard whatever they say, because that interpretation is different from mine.
Right. There's as many interpretations as there are individuals.
Exactly. Yeah. And each has its own merits, its own richness. Yes. Yeah. And I think that enriches all of us. And if we come to the table with that mindset, okay, you have much to share, as much as I have to share.
Yeah.
And then it just brings the conversation to a deeper level.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a beauty of our religious community as well. The Priests of the Sacred Heart, we have about 40 entities in the congregation. So every time we gather, we bring out our richness to the discussion,
Absolutely.
to the table.
Yeah.
Returning to your question about how my education has shaped me, and so that's the way I approach ministry as well. Try to be attentive to my brothers, try to be welcoming to our international brothers who are coming here for ministry. How do I create a space for them to be themselves, and also how to be welcoming and how to include them in the discussion or the conversation regarding the future of the province, regarding who we are as priests of the Sacred Heart.
Right.
Yes.
And so you're elected in 2022.
That's correct.
By your brothers.
Yes.
Who from what you've said to me, it sounds like they're a literal melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds, right?
Very, yes.
And then you all bring your own interpretations of what you do. So how has that been as leading that group of people? I would think it would be enriching to know that you trust and care for each other and to be in that position, and what challenges, how has that enriched you, and what challenges have you faced?
The U.S. church has always been an immigrant church. And I think with immigrants coming to this country, they bring their own richness and their spirituality to the church in the U.S. And I think it makes the church very vibrant.
Yeah.
So we have more and more international SCJs, or Priests of the Sacred Heart, coming to serve in the U.S. And how do we prepare them for church ministry in the U.S.? And so with this administration, we require our brothers to go through a period of preparation. First of all, to help them understand the U.S. culture, the U.S. church. If they go to South Dakota, they will have to know more about the Native American spirituality, Native American history, and Native American culture. And so that's what we push for, because for them to be successful in their ministry, they need to understand the people. They need to know who the people they're serving.
Absolutely.
So our brothers have been very generous. Our international brothers have been very generous in their coming to the United States to serve. Now, here in South Dakota, for example, you have Father John Claude, Father Hendrik Christianus, and so they're coming here and they dedicate their lives to the people on the reservation. And so leading a group of brothers who are very international, we're used to it. Because early on in our formation, we are formed to think beyond our entity. We try to think about Africa. We try to think of, we were taught to think about Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, and so on. And so it's the we congregation, not the me or the I congregation. It's a very international, it's a very, very broad mindset for us. And I try to encourage our students, and I will ask our students to have overseas experience as well, as a way to challenge them, to stretch them. And it's important to do so early on in their formation. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You took over as the provincial superior in 2022, but you were actually elected in 2021?
Well, actually, I was elected in 2022, January of 2022, and then a month later was installed.
Got it.
On February 4th, I think.
Okay. Yes. And what did that mean to you at that moment? If you can put it into words somehow, what did that mean to you to be elected?
I was overwhelmed. I knew the support the brothers gave me before the election. Some talked about me being provincial. But when that moment happened, it was overwhelming. Because from that moment on, I knew that I have different responsibilities. It's not a power trip. So for me, it's all about collaborating with one another to make sure that the future is clear for us. Yes.
Okay. And I understand that your mother had a very interesting question for you about that moment.
Yes. So when I was elected, I didn't tell my mom until 2 days later. 2 days later, because I wasn't ready to tell her. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, I did. I didn't call her until 2 days later, and I told her about the many responsibilities of the provincial, and she asked me on the phone and said, "Why didn't you say no?" But being a religious is not about saying no; it's about saying yes.
Yeah.
It's about being available. Because Moses, was asked to lead the people. Jeremiah, the prophets, and many other people, biblical figures, were asked to take on different tasks. And I thought, wow, this is my one way of responding to that invitation, the invitation to serve the church, and also hopefully to shape the direction of the province as well.
Yeah.
And that led me to accepting the challenge.
Right.
And the challenge is not over yet.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
More and more every day.
Yeah.
As you know, yes. Yeah.
And your mom wasn't sure. She wanted her son thrown into that challenge.
Right. And so once in a while I try, not once in a while, but daily I try to reach out to her, tell her, okay, I'm in South Dakota. Yesterday, I missed my flight, something like that, just to have her be part of my ministry and journey as well.
Yeah. Father Vien, I just want to thank you for being a part of Hochoka today. I say Wopila to you.
Thank you, Scott, for inviting me, and it's great to be here.
Wonderful. Yes. Thanks again for joining us here in Hochoka at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School's campus, where we talk about issues central to Native America today. Until next time, stay centered.